Have you ever watched someone you love, a parent, grandparent, or spouse, begin to slip away and wondered if there were signs you missed? Moments you could have cherished more? This isn't just another video. It's a heartfelt revelation from hospice nurses who have spent decades guiding souls through their final chapters. They've seen it all, and today they're sharing 6 heartbreaking yet beautiful signs that often appear before someone says their last goodbye. You'll want to stick around until the end because these signs will not only help you recognize when a loved one is preparing to depart, but also show you how to be there with love, presence, and words that heal before it's too late. The first sign isn't something you notice with your eyes. It's a quiet stirring you feel deep in your chest. It's an almost imperceptible shift in the rhythm of their presence. They start to withdraw, not out of sorrow or illness, but as if their soul is gently turning inward, curling into itself like a leaf in the cool of autumn. Sarah, our hospice nurse, spoke of seniors who once filled every corner of a home with life. Their laughter a melody that danced through family dinners, their stories weaving generations together. Over time, these vibrant souls began to grow quieter. Their voices soften, their movements slow, as if conserving energy for a journey only they can sense. They might decline invitations to lively gatherings, let phone calls to lifelong friends go unmade, or seek the solace of a quiet room over the warmth of company. "It's not always depression," Sarah explained, her hands shaping the air around her words. "It's something more profound, almost sacred. They're preparing, carving out a space of peace within themselves, a sanctuary for reflection and readiness." Families often misinterpret this retreat, assuming it's just fatigue or a need for rest. But Sarah insisted it runs deeper. It's a poignant signal that their loved one is beginning to loosen their ties to this world, stepping gently toward a departure they feel approaching. Her words took me back to my grandfather's final months. I remember him at our Sunday dinners, his weathered hands slicing roast while spinning tales of his boyhood. But as the seasons turned, he began to slip away from those moments. "I just need to rest my eyes," he'd murmur, offering a faint smile as he eased into his worn recliner, gazing out at the oak trees swaying in the breeze. We thought he was simply tired, but now, with Sarah's insight, I understand he was retreating into a sacred stillness, preparing for his quiet goodbye. If you've seen a loved one grow more silent, pulling back into their world, pause and sit with them in that silence. Hold their hand, listen to their breath. It might be their way of sharing the weight of their transition, inviting you to witness the start of their farewell. The second sign sent a chill through me, as if a soft wind had slipped through the cracks of the room. "They start talking about traveling," Sarah said, her voice low and reverent. "But these aren't trips you'd plot on a map or book with a ticket." She described how patients often, in their final weeks, speak of preparing for a mysterious journey. They might mention packing a suitcase for a destination they can't quite name, waiting for a train at a station bathed in golden light, or catching sight of a familiar figure calling to them from a distance. Sarah recalled one woman, frail yet certain, who would sit by her hospice window, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "My sister's waiting for me by the river just beyond the willows," she'd say, her voice steady as if the meeting were already arranged. Her sister had passed away nearly 40 years earlier, yet the woman spoke of her as if she were standing just outside, ready to guide her onward. "This isn't unique to one person or one place," Sarah explained, her words imbued with the weight of countless stories. "It's universal across faiths, cultures, and beliefs. They sense a journey, a passage their soul is preparing to take. These aren't the ramblings of a fading mind or the fog of medication. It's a profound awareness, a soul's quiet recognition of the threshold it's approaching." As Sarah spoke, I thought of my great-uncle, a stoic man whose gruff voice masked a tender heart. In his final summer, we sat together on his porch, the air thick with crickets and honeysuckle. Out of the blue, he turned to me, his eyes distant yet clear, and said, I need to catch the bus soon, kid. Don't worry, it's a good ride. I chuckled, thinking it was one of his dry jokes, but the weight in his voice stayed with me. A month later, he was gone, leaving me to wonder if he'd been trying to share a glimpse of the journey he felt coming. If you've heard a loved one speak of a journey, a trip, or a waiting figure, type yes in the comments below. Share their words, their story. Your memory might be the comfort someone else needs to make sense of their own loved one's farewell. Sarah leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper as if sharing a secret woven from countless lives. The third sign is one of the most beautiful, she said, her eyes shimmering with the tenderness of moments she'd witnessed. They start giving things away, not to clear out clutter, but to share pieces of their heart, to pass on their legacy. These aren't casual handoffs, they're deliberate acts of love. Each item carries the weight of a life lived, a tarnished pocket watch marking decades of joys and sorrows, a locket cradling a sepia photograph, a faded journal with curling pages. Every gift is a story, a fragment of their soul they entrust to someone they hold dear. Sarah shared the story of Henry, a man whose rough hands bore the marks of a life spent working the land. In his final weeks, he called his young granddaughter to his bedside, pressing his old fishing rod into her small hands. "You'll catch the big one someday, kiddo," he said, his voice a soft rumble of pride. 2 weeks later, he slipped away, but that rod became a bridge across time, a tangible piece of his love that his granddaughter would carry into her future. "It's their way of saying, 'Remember me,'" said, her voice trembling with emotion. "They're handing you the meaning of their life, trusting you to keep it alive." Her words stirred a vivid memory of my grandmother's kitchen, rich with the scent of cinnamon and apples. One day, she pulled me close and pressed her worn recipe book into my palms. "Make my apple pie for your kids someday," she said, her eyes holding mine with a quiet urgency I didn't grasp then. She passed a few months later, but that book remains a piece of her I can still touch when I bake her pie. If someone you love has gifted you something precious, don't brush it aside as a simple gesture. Ask for its story. Listen to the memories it holds, and hold it close. Your story might help someone else see the sacredness in the heirloom they've been entrusted with, a reminder that love endures beyond the boundaries of time. The fourth sign Sarah described was a profound and often unexpected shift, a spiritual awakening that stirs even in those who spent a lifetime anchored in practicality or skepticism. "It's as though a door opens in their heart," she said, her voice soft with awe. "They start asking the big, eternal questions. What is the purpose of my life? Is there something beyond this world? Will I be reunited with those I've loved and lost?" This isn't a frantic search for answers born of fear, but a gentle, luminous curiosity that seems to grow as the end draws near. Sarah shared the story of Margaret, a retired high school teacher whose sharp intellect had defined her for decades. In her final months, something shifted. One quiet evening, as the horizon glowed with the warm hues of a fading sunset, Margaret turned to Sarah, her eyes bright with wonder. "I think there's more out there," she whispered. "Something bigger than all of us. Something waiting." "It's like their soul is stretching towards something vast and eternal," Sarah explained. "They're not running from the unknown. They're making peace with it, embracing it." This resonated deeply with me, reminding me of my neighbor, Mr. Callahan, a gruff old mechanic who scoffed at anything sentimental. In his final months, he began sitting on his porch each evening, his weathered hands folded, his eyes fixed on the stars. One night, he turned to me and asked, "Do you think the stars know who we are? Do they see us down here trying to figure it all out?" It was a question revealing a man searching for meaning, his heart opening to mysteries he once dismissed. This hunger for meaning can manifest in subtle ways. Some might ask for a forgotten hymn to be played, their voices joining in with surprising strength. Others might request a visit to a place of worship or a quiet garden where they can sit in silence, feeling the weight of something sacred. As Sarah spoke of the fifth sign, her voice grew hushed, as if sharing a secret too sacred for loud words. "They start seeing people we can't see," she said, her eyes reflecting the weight of countless stories. In their final weeks or months, many patients begin to interact with unseen presences, smiling at an empty chair, whispering to someone long gone, or describing vivid encounters with loved ones who passed years before. "It's not confusion or delirium," Sarah insisted. "It's something profound, a bridge between this world and the next." She shared the story of Evelyn, a gentle grandmother whose warmth filled any room. In the months before her passing, Evelyn began to change. One afternoon, as Sarah adjusted her pillows, Evelyn's face lit up with a radiant smile. "Henry's here," she said, her voice steady and joyful. "He's wearing his blue suit, the one he wore on our wedding day. He says it's almost time." Sarah felt a chill of awe. She knew Henry had been gone for decades, yet Evelyn's certainty was unshakable. "It's comforting," Sarah said, "like they're being welcomed by those who've gone before. They're not alone, they're being guided home." This brought back a vivid memory of my Aunt Clara, who seemed to glow with an inner light in the days before her passing. One quiet afternoon, as I held her hand, she suddenly chuckled. "Mama's here," she said, her voice full of warmth. "She's braiding my hair, just like when I was a little girl." These visits take many forms. Some patients describe seeing figures bathed in soft light, while others speak of feeling a gentle touch, a hand on their shoulder, a brush against their cheek that soothes their fears. The sixth sign is perhaps the most poignant and perplexing, a phenomenon Sarah called the rally. It carries both beauty and heartbreak in equal measure. "It's like a candle flaring brightly just before it goes out," she said, her voice thick with emotion. In the rally, those nearing the end of life experience an unexpected surge of vitality, a burst of energy that defies their weakened state. After weeks or months of frailty, they might suddenly sit up, eat with gusto, laugh with loved ones, or share stories with a clarity that feels miraculous. Families often cling to this moment, their hearts swelling with hope that it signals recovery. But Sarah explained that the rally is something else entirely, a final gift, a fleeting chance to reconnect, to say goodbye, to be remembered as they truly are. Sarah shared the story of Thomas, a quiet widower who had spent months in a hospice bed. One crisp autumn afternoon, Thomas suddenly sat up, his eyes alight with a spark his daughter Lily hadn't seen in years. He asked her to sit with him and began singing an old folk song they used to sing together. For that hour, it was as if time had rewound to brighter days. That night, Thomas passed peacefully in his sleep, leaving Lily with a memory she would cherish forever. "It's their soul saying, 'This is who I am. Remember me like this,'" Sarah said. "It's a moment to hold close, not to mourn." This brought back a vivid memory of my cousin's father, Uncle Ray, who had been bedridden for months. One evening, he called the family into his room, his voice suddenly clear and strong. "I want ice cream," he declared with a mischievous grin. For the next hour, he savored chocolate fudge ripple, telling old jokes that had us doubled over with laughter. By morning, he was gone, leaving us with that final joyful memory, a gift we now treasure. The rally can take countless forms, each as unique as the person experiencing it. Some might ask for a favorite meal, savoring each bite with relish. Others might share stories from their youth, their voices steady and rich with detail. As we come to the end of this heartfelt journey, I want to take a moment to thank you for staying with us and for opening your heart to these tender truths shared by hospice nurses who've witnessed life's most sacred moments. These 6 signs, the quiet withdrawal, the talk of journeys, the giving of treasures, the search for meaning, the visits from loved ones, and that final spark of life, remind us that even in life's final year, there's beauty, love, and a chance to connect deeply. I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned from this video that's touched your heart or changed how you'll show up for someone you love? Please share it in the comments below. Your story could inspire someone else to cherish every moment.